Cycling isn't always about getting from A to B. Every rider rides for a reason. Riding a bike isn't about adding days to our lives. It's about adding life to our days. 2020 has been an especially trying time for us all. With society rebuilding, I've met with some of the men looking to break the cycle and ride through the struggles.
Yeah, ready when you are. We'll catch up.
Yes, we used to. Right, let's go. Like all of us, you think, you know, not why me, but you think, well, you know, it's a lottery of life, any health issue. But it is what it is, and you know you've got to get through it as quickly as possible. And with the consultants, when they first saw me, and they want to know a bit of history, and I told them that I did cycling, and my nickname was, which stuck through my cancer treatment, was 100-mile man, because I tended to cycle about 100 miles a week. But they all said, well, you're 69 at the time, you're fit and healthy, you've got a good attitude towards life, there's a good chance that between us we can fight this. And I was lucky, the treatment was successful, minimal side effects, but and I think part of that was my attitude towards the problems I had. Not entirely, because it no matter what you do, cancer is a horrible thing, and it can come back, and it can come back with vengeance somewhere else. So
sacrificing things. Well, look, let's talk to Luke and find out more. Luke, you there? Hi.
Last few years, I've been taking in unloved bikes and making them work, and selling them with the money going to prostate cancer. And in the winter I'd refurbished 7 bikes, and I thought, good, February, March, good time to sell it. And then we had the lockdown, and I thought, well, I don't really want 7 bikes, because they were stored in the greenhouse and in my shed and were taking up valuable space. So I put them on Gumtree, and they literally flew out of the garage. And then I had a couple of weeks and I had no bikes, so I had a bit of a withdrawal symptoms. And I put a posting on a local community app called Nextdoor, and said, anybody got an old bike in the shed they want to get rid of? And I told them what I did, and the message went out on the Friday, and come Sunday evening I had 28 bikes in the back garden. So that kept me more than busy, and being a bit embarrassed having 28 bikes in the back garden, I immediately started working on them, which I did continuously for a month. And the bikes kept rolling in, and I've done over 60 bikes now, which I've refurbished, sold, and raised good money for prostate cancer. So as far as I'm concerned, it was a win-win. People had freed up space in the shed. I'd enjoyed refurbishing them, making them work. I got people on the road, which was really good in the pandemic situation, because a lot of people hadn't ridden for years, and the charity got some money. So and last week I had 6 bikes given to me, so they're still coming in.
You said there one of the people
you got people out on the road. I don't think I've ever told you this, but at the start, the day before I met you, I was having a bit of a mental health crisis.
Right.
Found myself kind of on my own, doing nothing, and I was really worried. I was a bit worried about what I was going to do and how to get help. And I found the start of the lockdown really difficult. I obviously saw your ad online and came down, and where I didn't end up buying one of your bikes, but just listening to you and your joy of cycling, like your love of cycling, has spurred me to kind of start cycling and actually make this documentary.
Well, that's brilliant, because more we can get people out doing things, and I'm a firm believer, no matter what it is, you need a distraction from routine life, because routine life can become all consuming and become boring, and if I'm not working on the bikes, I still ride quite a lot, just for pleasure, but I find your mind goes in all different directions when you're out riding, and you think of all sorts of things that you wouldn't do if you were just sitting in your comfy chair looking at the television or looking at your phone or listening to the radio. So I find it cleanses my mind, really, to just being busy and being active in body as well as mind.
I had a very silly industrial accident. It resulted in my fracturing my neck in 2 places. It brought about the end of my working career. As everybody else says, made me refocus on a few things. But I was involved in this scheme at the time, and in many ways it helped me to appreciate what many of our clients are coping with, and appreciate why many of the clients are as they are. And the whole idea is to get people cycling that couldn't otherwise cycle for whatever reason. Physical limitations, mental health issues, lack of confidence, old age, we take anything.
How are you feeling about getting on a bike?
I'm excited. I'm a bit nervous, obviously. I haven't been on a bike since my injury at all. But yeah, it'd be nice to get back on it and
Get your arms going.
Get my arms going a bit, mate. So it's November 2018. I just started a new job at a cafe in Stockbridge, and I did 1 day, and then for my second day I was starting super early in the morning. It's like 6, half 6 or something like that in the morning, and I don't actually remember the morning at all, but I woke up, had my coffee, had some breakfast, and I started driving, and I was going on a national speed limit road, and as I was driving, a car's come around the corner on the wrong side of the road and hit me head on. and I think it was in like quite a not a very like popular, not a very busy part of road basically. So I wasn't found, or we weren't found until another car driven by, who I've been told helped me very kindly and called an ambulance, and then I went to Southampton Hospital, and it turns out that I broke my right femur, my left ankle and my lower back basically.
Legs out flat and give it a go.
Should give it a go.
What do you think? Stick my foot under it initially to stop it. See, that was easy.
I can imagine what you mean about getting off it though.
I think your knees are going to be clear there. So bearing in mind that's it, it's both, and it's reverse the action to stop it.
Right.
Try and remember that, because we don't want anybody run over if you can help.
Okay, I'll try.
It makes an awful lot of paperwork.
Yeah.
Give it a go and see what you think.
Okay.
How is it?
It's weird, mate. I don't really know where I'm going.
It's going through your head right now.
I just don't want to crash. I was definitely a little bit nervous, like being back on a bike for the first time. I didn't really know what I was going to do, how to control it, but I got used to it. It's good fun. I think it's important to like try and challenge yourself, you know, to do things differently. Otherwise, you're never going to like move forward. I've had like mental health struggles in the past, and I think it after the accident, I think obviously you would, you know, have down days, you know, thinking like why me, how has this happened to me, and you know, basically feeling a bit sorry for myself, which I think is perfectly normal. And yeah, I did struggle a lot. I was very scared about the future, I guess, as well, and that's a big thing that I've kind of like had to come to terms with, that my future might not be what I expected it to be, if that makes sense. Like, I don't know what I'm going to be like physically now when I'm 50, or what have you, like how able I'm going to be. But I think at the same time, I've also managed to feel lucky in a way, because it could have gone a lot worse, you know. And I've met a lot of people that maybe their recovery's been a bit tougher than mine has. So, you know, swings and roundabouts basically.
It's one of those where, to a naked eye, you can't see. But the amount of graft and the hard work that you've put in over the last 18 months has been day to day, isn't it?
Yeah. So I'm supposed to be doing physical exercise every day. It's tougher on some days to motivate myself to crack on with it than others, you know. But on a usual week, like I'll go to physio twice a week, maybe hydrotherapy, chucked in there once or twice. I have a massage once a week. Get very tight in my muscles, basically sports massage and stuff. And yeah, I exercise as much as I can at home. So it's not, you know, just a natural thing that I get back to where I am now. I've had to work really hard to get there, but ultimately it's worthwhile. And in the past, I've like I think it's hard to open up about it, and it's hard to talk about it, and you feel like if you just don't bring it up, then you can ignore it and pretend it's not there. But I think I used to hate having to go to these sessions like counselling I used to go to. I hated it. I was embarrassed that I was going there. I would dread it as well. I'd be like, I don't want to talk about it, because I'd feel worse if I just talked about it. But now I enjoy it now, and I go there and I don't feel embarrassed about it. I used to lie about where I was going, you know. Someone would be like, well, do you want to do something on Wednesday? And I'd say, I can't, I've got, you know, I'd make something up. I wouldn't tell my mates that I was going to go see a counsellor. But now I feel like the more I talk about it, the more I can kind of grasp an idea of where I'm at, what I need to do to try and make myself feel better. and I think it's a really positive thing, like talking about it now.
I never cycled really before lockdown. A lot of that is to do with my kind of fear of my lack of balance and coordination because of my cerebral palsy. I'd always wanted to do so, and kind of being in London, working in London for the last almost 3 years, I'd seen cyclists on the road and I thought, oh, I wish I could do that, I wish I could do that. And you know, get a taxi in, the cycle lanes would be empty, and I'd think, oh, I wish I could get out on the bike and use that as a way of getting around. And to be fair, at some point, I just had to bite the bullet. I just had to bite the bullet and go, oh, I'm going to get out, get a handbike, get out on my handbike and use it as a way of getting around. And that's what I've done. I always thought, oh, hand cycling's not for people like me, it's for paraplegics or that sort of thing. And there wasn't really any example to go to of somebody with cerebral palsy using a hand cycle for getting around. So I kind of had to invent it myself and invent my way of doing it myself, if you know what I mean. And Vince and the guys at the factory, the DaVinci factory, were fantastic in terms of figuring out a way to do that, but it was really difficult. And then, you know, you start comparing yourself to these paraplegics, these big muscular fellas, and you're like, well, it's unfortunate, but you know, sometimes it's not going to be like that. And you know, you've kind of got to stop comparing yourself and just do what's good for you.
I was involved in a car accident in 1974 and ended up with a spinal cord injury, complete below T10 to T12. So I've got no use and no feeling in my legs. And I started off doing a variety of wheelchair sports. I first off did a bit of archery and then moved on to fencing, but the sport that was I enjoyed the most was wheelchair basketball. So that's why I started making wheelchairs, was to improve the chair that I had for playing wheelchair basketball in.
Oh, DaVinci have been phenomenal. Without DaVinci, I'm pretty sure I wouldn't be hand cycling. I'm pretty sure I'd still be Googling videos late at night and being, oh, why can't I do that? Just the whole attitude of DaVinci, of getting around, and you know, those guys advising me on what to do and advising me what the best setup is, and you know, if I need a motor assist, truth, I do. And getting up and down hills is a nightmare, and I definitely couldn't do it on manual. And it's things like maintenance. If something breaks on it, I'm 20 minutes, half an hour away from the factory here. So that's great in terms of maintaining the bike, and they've been absolutely fantastic in that respect.
We've known Ellis since he was about 10 years old, and we made the first wheelchair, which actually, believe it or not, is the chair that he cycles on now. So it still fits him because that was a growing chair, and we have adjusted it over the years so it continues to fit him. But when he decided he wanted to try and hand cycle, which is pretty difficult for somebody who's got cerebral palsy, who isn't great at self-propelling a regular wheelchair, but took to hand cycling like a duck to water. And although it was a bit scary, I'm sure you've heard that from his parents when he first started riding, because his movements can be a bit uncoordinated. He's got on top of it, and he's really, really good. I'm so impressed with him.
I mean, even the guy, Vince, at DaVinci, who makes the bike, he still says to me now, I never thought he'd be able to cycle a bike. I don't think we ever did. You know, you go from being, when he could at least just sit up, having that kind of little seat on the back of your bike. That to us felt like freedom as parents, that we could try and he looked normal, like, you know, if that whatever normal is, like other kids. And you know, when you go to centre parks and you get those little attachments at the back and you think, wow, we can be just like everybody else. But I never thought he'd achieve to actually ride a bike independently by himself.
I was very, very lucky during lockdown, but my dad actually, a lot of his work stopped, unfortunately. So he was able to go out and took me on loads and loads of cycling routes and built up my confidence to be able to solo cycle, and showed me the best routes in the local area to be able to get around, and taught me how to use my gears properly and everything like that. So actually, my dad having that time to take me out and coach me and teach me how to use it was absolutely fundamental, and I appreciate a lot of people won't have that and won't have that support network. But if you've got somebody in your local community and a local neighbour or from your church group or something like that who's a cyclist, have a chat with them and see if you can go out and ride with them and see what tips and tricks they can teach you in terms of way of getting around.
Lockdown was interesting because work just stopped. Work stopped completely. I had a diary of work for March and April with a lot of football matches to commentate on, and suddenly the diary just went completely quiet. And I'm used to travelling up and down the country, the length and breadth of the country. So I was literally locked down at home, and Ellis was sent back from London. But looking back at it, he's 26 now, and it's the longest we've ever spent together as a family, because I'm always working. He's been away at university. He's always had things to do, like, you know, the conductive education and the physio and stuff like that. So we had our son really for 3 months at home for the first time ever, where we could do lad and dad things, and the cycling has been a big thing of that, because that's been a constant every day. Where are we going to go today? What time are we going to cycle today? Where are we going to go today? So it's been brilliant. I've been cycling, painted the fence, things I've been meaning to do for years.
Using a handbike to improve not just your physical health but your mental well-being is tremendous. I mean, just the fact that you're out and about in the fresh air and you don't need any assistance most of the time, or even all of the time, is liberating. You know, for a lot of people it makes a huge amount of difference, and the fact that you can you're not tied to having to get onto another piece of equipment and then get somebody to help you to go and do bits and pieces. You know, they just clip on and off very, very quickly. You can go down to the shops, park the bike, go and do your shopping, get back on the bike and go back home again. Means that you are not tied to using a car or a van or anything under certain circumstances, and it just makes you feel like you're normal, if that's for want of a better word.
Mental health is the same as physical health. It's impacting on us every single day. We have good days, we have bad days, life. But if we start to have more bad days than good, maybe we need to go and get some help and support. In the same way that if I have a common cold and I start to feel those symptoms, well, maybe I need to look after myself a little bit better.
We are in a very challenging, unprecedented moment in history. We're seeing a pandemic like we've never seen in a generation. We call a black swan event.
Well, I don't think that mental health has had its fair share of resources from the NHS pie. So I'd like to see greater parity of esteem. And I've heard government after government, different colours, promising that and not delivering.
If we can teach and train people how to acknowledge good days and bad days, and when to acknowledge that bad days are becoming bad weeks or even bad months, then the question is, at that point, where do I go and get help and support?
And I think more people from all backgrounds ought to be enabled and helped to get cycling as part of everyday life, as part of leisure, as part of their recreation.
Since the pandemic, we've seen quite a big increase in the number of people cycling, getting out, active travel, maybe doing their daily exercise. which has been very good for people's mental health. They can come into the parks and stuff like that.
So I think one of the main benefits around encouraging people to get out, to cycle, to create the safe environment for people to cycle. Because I know for me, having not really cycled much since being a teenager, getting out on the roads at the moment is actually quite a scary prospect.
If you look at some of our schemes that we've put in for pop-up cycle lanes, maybe remove some parking. The car used to have 100% of the road, it's now got 75% of the road, so it still has 75% of the road. So it means it's fairer for everybody.
Because not only is it good for our physical health and getting us out and about, it's brilliant for the environment and the reduction of pollution, which is key at this time. It's so beneficial for our mental health in the context of giving ourselves space to switch on and switch off from work. And there seems to be this collaboration community being built.
Hook up with a mate, to do things together, to get some advice. There's lots of places you can go online, speak to your GP, and I like to think that GPs are now being given some money by the government to encourage patients to go out and to physically exercise more, including cycling.
When life throws those curveballs and everything inside of me just wants to roll over and put the duvet back over and go back to sleep, how do I acknowledge what I'm going through and actually almost have this defiance that says, actually no, I will find the good stuff. I will find that in today.
My feeling is that people shouldn't suffer in silence. If they've got an issue that they want to address, come and talk to their counsellor, speak to their doctor, speak to My Journey. Certainly in Southampton, we've got a lot of groups there that would be only too willing to help out.
They recommend 3 times a week for around 45 minutes per session, but if you're out every day kind of doing it, just enjoy the exercise.
Quite low, see it feels lonely, isn't it?
When spirits are low, when the day appears dark, when work becomes monotonous, when hope hardly seems worth having, just mount a bicycle and go out for a spin down the road, without thought on anything but the ride you are taking. Cyclists are a diverse group of characters, bound together by a common love. Cycling can make a huge impact on those who decide to seek solace while breaking the cycle.
Town's been down, out of luck with the touch of life. It's cold when lights flip round and profound to the older eye. But just remember them and the times that you shared. You're not alone, you're not alone. So let's raise a glass to these young lives perched on the menu. These young lives gone too soon. This old town has heart, glass it breaks and we remend the shards. When things fall apart, a warm shoulder is never far. But just remember them and the times that you shared. You're not alone, you're not alone. So let's raise a glass to these young lives.